So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. So I was asked to join this event. Never been to make this event at all. And my colleague from work said, "Why don't you come and do this talk at Speaker's Corner? You're on after Alistair Campbell." So I was a bit like, so I'm on after Alistair Campbell. What am I going to talk about that's going to generate some interest? But firstly, my first observation of the show is I'm really underdressed. Everybody else is very smart. Everybody's got shirt and ties. Ladies are wearing lovely dresses. So I'm not sure, because we normally go to trade shows. We're a US-based company, and we dress down. So firstly, thanks for making me feel underdressed. So a bit about me. We're going to talk about Armis and what we do. But a bit about me. So I've been in the IT cybersecurity industry since '97. I was very much one of those people at school, and back to one of the points that was raised earlier, which was get yourself an education, get yourself a degree, get yourself a proper job. So my parents were very much the send me off to school, give me a proper job, I'm going to be a lawyer or an accountant. So imagine my disappointment when I started selling cars. So I did that for a little while, and ever since I've been in IT. I live in Wiltshire, out in the west, and actually people know the town where I live, Malmesbury, because that's where Dyson are. So love or hate Dyson. To us in our area, they're a great employer, and they've just, back to the point about education that was raised earlier, they've just put £6 million into the local primary school, so they're very much investing in education and have a very good program about inspiring people to get into their industry. The topic of conversation is going to be, for this, now 9 minutes, is what we do and some insights from the factories. So what I thought when I first joined Armis 3 years ago was that in manufacturing and healthcare, which is the sectors I look after, that everybody would know every device that they have in a factory. Everybody would know every device they have in a hospital. And what I quickly found out is, in a hospital, they have no idea about the medical devices that are on their network. And in a manufacturing environment, we started working with lots of global manufacturers, and they were asking the questions to us and saying, can we help them, show them what devices they have on their network? And all these organizations had got a very good handle on their managed devices. So laptops, desktops, servers. They'd got a really good handle on what people were doing on a laptop. What they hadn't got a great handle on was what was going on the shop floor. And a lot of this goes back to the challenges of, in the past, the OT manufacturing network was very segregated. It was air-gapped, as the term. And so it was separate. It wasn't connected to the internet. So that wasn't a problem. Obviously, people come along, have these great solutions and say, if we connect these devices to the internet, we can avoid the time it takes for an engineer to maybe even come from a separate country to fix a problem on the production line. So the air gap is dead. IT and OT have converged. And so it means that all those devices that were very segregated on the OT manufacturing floor are now connected. So they're connected for all the right reasons, but also for some of the wrong reasons. So what do? So we help organizations understand every device they have on any type of network. We do it in an automated, passive way, so there's no disruption to the production floor. And actually what we've started to do is to build trust between the IT security teams and the OT manufacturing people, because what we've definitely seen in the past, and I'm sure you've seen it in your organizations, is IT security come along and say, I've got this great idea. I'm going to put something into your factory that's going to make it more secure. We've definitely seen some insights where a factory manager will go, we are secure, and they're confusing security with safety. So what we come along and say is, look, we can help the IT security people put a solution into a factory which enables them to have insight and control over all the devices that are on that network. And the first part is building an asset inventory. So we can build a detailed asset inventory of every device that's on that network, the hundreds of thousands of devices that are in those manufacturing plants, without disruption. So it ticks the box of the IT cybersecurity people to look and say, now we look at we understand all the devices, what they're communicating with, what they're connecting with, and are there any risks? And from the manufacturing, the people running manufacturing plants, they get some insight into how efficient are these devices, how many devices they've got that maybe are not doing what they should be doing, that are communicating and actually doing things like sending sensitive data out of the plant. So we work with lots of companies all around the world. So if I pick some examples just to give you, so auto supply chain, we work with companies like Aptiv, who are based in Ireland. Across the automotive sector, we work with Volvo, Tesla, Jaguar Land Rover. And then in the FMG sector, we work with people like Pepsi, Colgate, Reckitt, Procter & Gamble, Mondelez, Nestle, to help them understand all the devices that they have within their environment. We also work with the chip manufacturers, so people like Intel globally, to help them secure their factories. So a couple of just things that to look at, what have we seen in these factories? So we see a lot of out-of-date technology. And for anybody that's running a production environment, you've got out-of-date technology. It was put in there 15, 20, 30 years ago in some instances. So you've got out-of-date technology. What you want to understand is, what risk does that technology pose to your business? We've seen crypto mining running on a production line. We've seen devices, as I mentioned, with sensitive data, sending that out to an unknown IP address, potentially to a competitor. We've seen Peloton bikes that are connected to the corporate and the OT environment, which clearly shouldn't be there. We've seen games consoles. So we saw this with a beverage manufacturer, and actually it was around not the fact they've got a games console, because you can have a games console in a breakout area, that's potentially allowable, but actually it's not allowable at a certain time of day when the people that were using the games console were actually meant to be looking after the production line at a time when there was a lower number of people there. We can see PLC changes, we can see unmanaged devices, we can see unmanaged switches, we can see the devices that people have gone down to PC World and connected in. We can see the Amazons, Alexas, we can see the Google devices that people have gone, I'm just going to have that to play some music. And then we start to show them that there's these connections that are being made across the environment. So in terms of, if you take one thing away, if you have any curiosity about what devices are in your environment, you want to build an automated inventory very quickly, you're worried about compliance, you're worried about what NIS2 is going to what's going to change, then come and talk to us. If you've got some questions, burning questions, if anybody comes to you and says, what do we have? What do we have on our network right now? What is it doing? What is it connecting to? And is it a risk? We can help you with that. And certainly, if you've got a curiosity about any of those different things, and I'll leave it with one final comment, which was, we had one organisation that said they knew they'd bought 15,000 Raspberry Pis. And that was an absolutely valid thing for them to do within their environment. The question they had is, they didn't know, they had no idea where they were and what they were doing. 15,000 devices. Now, this was a company with 200 sites, 190,000 people, but they had no idea. So if anybody comes, knocks on your door and says, what do I have? What are the risks of those devices? A vulnerability like Log4j comes up, you can come to us and we can help you address that. Thank you very much. So I've been asked it, we have got time for a couple of questions. So if anybody got any questions, either ask them with this microphone or, apart from this lady.
Hello. Oh, you can hear me now. Completely forgot what I was going to ask you. No, how small a business do you actually help? Because you listed some very large blue chip companies, and most of the businesses that I deal with that might be relevant to this are quite small by comparison, sort of sub £50 million turnover.
So there's not really an answer. It's not about whether it's small. Clearly, as a business, we focus on larger enterprises, and actually, some of the time they have the bigger problem. But actually, a company with one site, one factory is just as valid. So we can do that as well. So there's not a particular size that we look at. From an enterprise customer perspective, we say something like 5,000 people and above. But from a manufacturing perspective, if you've got one site, you've got this problem, we can help address it, and then it's very quick and simple to do so.
Thank you. By the way, we have machinery that goes back to 1949 and before that in our factories.
And actually on that point, we were working with a glass manufacturer who turned around and said, you've said that this technology is non-disruptive, And we're like, yeah, it's absolutely non-disruptive. It's not going to have any impact on your environment. And they said, oh, well, that's lucky. He says, because our float production line's been running continuously for 45 years, so please don't do anything to disrupt it. So.
Nerve-wracking.
Okay, thank you very much.